Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Just wanted to start off today with a big thank you to everybody who came out and met us at Dragon Meet this past weekend. I'm just about recovered from the convention now. It's a busy day, but yeah, a really fun day. And we've got to speak to so many cool people. Some of you for the first time, some of you are listeners who've been with us for a little while, and it was all really great. Year in, year out, we've been back to Dragon Meet a few times, and it's always just such a fun time to get out there and actually interact with like members of the TTRPG community, and you listeners in particular. So had such a great day. Thank you for everybody who came and said hi. I gave out stickers. As I mentioned last week, I was excited about the stickers. But yeah, we had just a real fun day in the podcast zone alongside a whole bunch of other amazing podcasts. So I want to say a big thank you to all of our fellow podcasters who were in the podcast zone for making it such a fun day, as well as especially the organisers of the podcast zone. Big shout out to a previous guest on this podcast, actually, Fiona of What Am I Rolling, who was spearheading the whole thing, and great day, and we can't wait for next year. So roll on 2025. I think for now that's all I wanted to just say before we get into today's episode. So without any further ado, let's begin episode 136, Conductance, Part 1. Enjoy. I think we'll open with the doors to the conference room opening as Murphy emerges from her additional debrief with Commander T'Lyn. I think maybe you were expecting like a full shouting dressing down, and I don't know if that's quite what happened with T'Lyn.
It was more, I think T'Lyn's more like, so explain to me how the captain got hurt, and I would have had to like give a blow-by-blow description of like what happened and where people were. Yeah. Because I imagine T'Lyn would be like, right, I need to understand the context of how the captain got hurt.
Yeah, and I think then her response when you've given it down is like, okay, let's go over again the guidelines for what happened, what should be done when a senior officer, of captain rank or above, is on a mission, in terms of like she's not trying to be like sarcastic, but it almost comes across like, because you know the rules, but she's like, okay, well, something's gone wrong, we need to go over the guidelines again. Like, I
think Murphy would probably come out a little confused because it's not really being told off. It felt more like
called into like, okay, we need to make sure you know this properly. Like almost like a sort of
refresher course almost.
Yeah, like you were going there expecting just like a dressing down, and what you got is like, okay, we'll have a one-to-one session where I just make sure you know what you're meant to be doing, sort of kind of thing. Which again might come across a little bit patronising to you, but like T'Lyn is not doing that on purpose, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Murphy's just like, I think she enjoyed it. Like, if she wasn't a Vulcan, I would think she enjoyed that.
You get the impression, like, T'Lyn probably wouldn't be a terrible instructor. Like, in terms of, like, she would... she seemed very at home, being like, okay, well, we'll go through all this stuff, and, like,
But you know how, some Vulcans, like, adapt slightly, and they start, like, having a little bit of humor, or like they say something out of pocket that you wouldn't always expect from her. She's kind of like, is she being sarcastic?
Yeah, I don't know if you know. I don't know if, well, maybe maybe it's tough to pick up, because you definitely noticed in the last, over the course of the last month or so of the voyage, T'Lyn attempting humor a little bit.
Yeah, she's probably going to be like talking to Ray afterwards about it, and just being like, I think she's developing a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You noticed anything?
So yes, you walk out of the conference room, and you find yourself, I think, probably a little bewildered, a little bit sort of, I don't know, you're probably feeling like, okay, like a little bit chastised, like, okay, I don't want to have to go through that every time something happens to the captain, sort of,
Yeah.
thing.
I don't want to have to do this lecture every time.
Yeah. You basically found yourself pulled into like a refresher course / lecture / we just, slash
your work modules that you have to complete.
Yeah, we need you to get signed off on this sort of thing. Or who knows? I mean, I feel like it's probably actually like, it's common sense stuff that Murphy knew, because you were like immediately concerned, and you from saying to the captain, I'm going to be in trouble because of this, sort of thing. But maybe it is something that, like, you were promoted right at the start of the mission. Maybe you do have a few things to still be like dotting the I's, crossing the T's, in terms of like your bump up to like official head of security status.
Yeah, maybe I've not assimilated all the duties yet, or I've got like reports from my predecessor that I need to finish going through, so that I'm caught up on everything.
Like maybe your
maybe
office,
there's like a pile of paperwork.
Maybe there's a stack of like pads in your inbox that you've just been like
avoiding.
You've been kind of avoiding, like, because it's not been it's not the end of the world. It's just one of the things about like, okay, as soon as you can, want to make sure this is filed away. We're putting the rubber stamp on. Okay, you are set to go on that.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of just been sat in your office in the pile of work to be done, and we've had stuff going on. It's been a busy time.
We've got this new mission.
Yeah.
Karaoke.
Yeah.
Karaoke.
It all takes time, yeah, and like nobody's chasing you up on it. But so maybe this is the outcome of this meeting, is that T'Lyn is like, okay, well, T'Lyn brings up, like, for the first time in a while, like, on almost like an evaluation thing on you, and sort of says, oh, I see we haven't yet received these forms or whatever, have not been done. Can we make sure these are done by the end of the week or something? So you're getting called out on not having done your paperwork or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very much like Murphy.
Yeah.
She's going to be in her office. I'm going to go to my office and finish up on some work undisturbed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think when you walk out of the conference room, the captain's not in the captain's chair. You're kind of just at sort of station keeping orbit. So I think one of the sort of like a unnamed lieutenant is at the con kind of thing. This is not an action expected area, and if worst came to the worst, like, T'Lyn would have come running from the conference room. I think the captain has like retired to his quarters though, so yeah, you are free to go about what you would like to do. Well,
now that she's had that dressing down and awkward module refresher,
yeah, like but also like a reminder of like, because I think probably quite exactly how much stuff you need to you need to go over, and you've been trying not to think about it.
Yep. She's just like, I'm gonna go do that, so someone else has the con.
Yeah,
she did. Yeah, okay.
It's Lieutenant Tanar, who is the Beta Shift Bridge Science Officer, reading from a pad, I think, at the moment, because the ship isn't in motion, it's just kind of in orbit, and yeah, you can fully you're not expected to be on the bridge, I think, at this point.
Lieutenant, if anyone needs me, I'll be in my office.
Yes, Commander.
She's just going to head on the turbo lift and then head to her office, because she's just like, I'm going to have so much work to do.
Yeah, I think you're technically probably off duty at this point. But like,
yeah, but she's just like, I'm just gonna go read. I'm just gonna go read. It's been a day.
Yeah.
And I've been told off by the Vulcan, and I'm not sure how to feel about it.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Okay, so you're spending the evening then. I think would it be safe to say like until you're tired.
Yeah, she'd go to bed at a reasonable hour, but she would try and get through this backlog of reports stuff that she needs to do.
Yeah, I think you find like as you start going through them, there are some that are like, okay, we just need you signing off on this paperwork, so it's literally just like, okay, here's a form to fill in. Some of them it's probably like, here's an attached training module thing we need you to like read through, and then there's even probably one that's like, here is a quick 30-minute holodeck presentation we need you to engage in, and it's like an interactive test kind of thing, but like I think it's safe to say you know what you're doing. So
she would probably be like lying back in her chair when she read that, be like, no, like, not right now, and put that like somewhere else, and like, not tonight.
Yeah, like you were hoping to just get through this pile, and you start finding ones that are like, oh, this is going to take time, and I'm going to have to actually go find a holodeck and like do an activity. I can't do it from my chair, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to go and assess these ideas that people are sending.
And I'm not saying it's going to be as traumatic as that one that Troy had to run through, where she had to decide whether Geordie was going to live or die on the holodeck, and in it, you know, you've been through the bridge officer one, so you've had to do that, you know, life or death exam. But my point is just that like, there's a couple of little modules like that are like, please be signed off on this, you know.
Yeah.
That are maybe more specific to Chief of Security stuff than anything else. So you put them in the I will do those another day pile. Then, yeah. Okay.
These are for for other days when I have less things to do.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you've that's your evening then. I think you're doing some paperwork. You're doing what can be done quickly, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I think you make it a decent way through the pile. It's not. I'm not picturing like a huge stack of like you've not done anything since you were, you know, promoted. It's just like some of the more annoying bits you've kind of just left to the side and gone, I'll get to that, and it's kind of come back to bite you.
She's probably looking at her schedule as well and seeing where she can fit in these sessions, and then like planning them. Maybe thinking about other members of her team that might benefit from it, but she'll probably go through it herself first just to double check that everything's what it is supposed to be. Yeah.
I mean, I think some of them are specific, like only Chief of Security, like sign off, you know. It's more of like a kind of, okay, here's stuff that you know, it's like a specification type thing of like, congratulations, you've been appointed Chief of Security for USS insert starship here. Here's what you need to know specifically now you're in this role, kind of thing. So that wouldn't be like fully needed for really anybody but you, I think. Yeah. But at the same time, there's maybe a couple of like refresher courses that have been updated since you last did them that have been flagged up at the same time that are a bit more general that maybe you and your lieutenants need to, it wouldn't hurt to go over.
Yeah.
So given the context then that it's been quite a tiring day, Murphy's powering through to get some paperwork out of the way. How about the rest of you? What are you feeling, given that you've pretty much like you've had your conference room meeting, you've had the debrief, and been told everybody did great work, rest up, have an evening, do what you need to do, sort of thing. Where do we find each of you?
I think Ireela's probably in the arboretum, because there was quite a lot of emotions during all of that.
Yeah, got a bit heated, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a little bit of emotional overload.
But also at the same time, like, this was the furthest away from like the huge number of people that are surrounding you at all times on the ship that you've been for a while. You definitely found some moments of calm down on the planet, at least before it all kicked off.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this isn't the first time we've been in the Arboretum, because we were here very briefly when Jonny interrupted a conversation between Bonge and Faria fairly early on. Interruption of a I don't want to say a date, but a
Meet cute.
Tender moment.
yeah.
A meet cute.
Yeah.
A tender moment.
A tender moment interrupted by Jonny. That was the last time we were in here, so I think I probably ought to give like a bit of a more detailed description of the room. It's a pretty large space, actually, kind of in the middle of the ship. It's splits almost in half into two different biomes. There is a sort of, I guess, a more temperate kind of, I don't want to say manicured garden, but it is a little bit. It's a bit like a sort of, I don't know if you've been to like a sort of stately home kind of garden. There's like a bit of a lawn, there's water features and stuff, but there's lots of kind of like well-tended kind of flower beds and a huge variety of different plants from sort of Earth and elsewhere. The other half is a bit more of a sort of, I don't want to say like desert environment, but it is a kind of, it's a slightly different, I don't know, a bit more kind of dry sort of, I'm picturing like sort of a southern Spain, kind of more sort of sandy kind of area. I guess. Yeah. But yeah, the sort of more sort of sandy area, and there's different types of plants. There's some cacti and things, and then kind of fruit trees and stuff like that. The walls around the chamber are embedded with holographic circuitry. It's not like a full holodeck. You're not like finding yourself looking and feeling like you're on a completely different planet. But they do have a sort of perspective thing that makes it feel like the room is a lot bigger than it is. It's not a tiny room, but it's just sort of an enhancement to make this feel like a bit more of a kind of open space. There's a few people in here kind of walking around. It's kind of a popular sort of, I guess, meeting spot, but not to the point where it's like crowded and oppressive in any way to Ireela, I think. It's, you know, there's a few people kind of walking here and there, and it's a large enough room that it's not feeling like you're, you know, in a crowded bar or anything like that. As you look around, as you enter, you see that there are the, as expected, pair of civilian gardeners who they volunteered to join the ship, and their whole role here is basically like they take care of the arboretum. One of them is a Saurian female that you know as Mina. She's very enthusiastic and cheerful. One of them is a Tellarite, and she's called Radol, and she really doesn't like people being in here at all. They get in the way of caring for plants, and she doesn't like people. But you see them both sort of in their own little patches. The Saurian taking care of the more kind of sandy area, and Radol, the Tellarite, is trying to, you can see at this moment, shoo some off-duty people away from the lawn that she's just going over with a very fine tooth. I was going to say fine tooth comb, but like she's caring for the lawn and is shooing people away and not shouting after them, but is not happy that people are anywhere near any of the plants in this room.
That's what I would expect. So
yeah, it's yeah. This is, I think. Well, I mean, we haven't really seen you in here before, but I think this has become a bit of a sort of, I don't want to say refuge, but it's like it's a more comfortable place for you to get away from the hustle and bustle of the medical department. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the sight of these two gardeners is it's a familiar one.
Honestly, I suspect Ireela is going to find somewhere that she can just sit or lie down.
Sure.
And just not do anything at all for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's some benches in here. There's sort of little, I don't want to say like nooks and crannies, but there's little kind of secluded little areas and that where, you know, you can sort of sit, and they're sort of surrounded by quite tall plants and things like that. So while it's not a huge room, there's enough of kind of clever layouts happening that if you wanted to find like a quiet spot that you won't be disturbed too much, that's easily done, I think. You at this point, I think, I don't know, would you say friendly enough, or you've probably talked to them a couple of times with the angry gardener to be able to have a lie down in a corner of the lawn if you wanted to, without causing too much trouble, I think.
It's okay, they know that I won't just like randomly destroy the plants.
Are you just sort of, are you chilling out and just decompressing? Are you reading?
I think I'm going to just decompress for a bit.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good option.
Yeah. The atmospheric system is putting a nice cooling, like, you know, a pleasant breeze through here. It's meant to feel like you're in a garden, basically, and it's, yeah. I think it's quite a calming place. Maybe there's some bird song being piped in, like at a reasonable level. But I think it's a calming area, and you're able to just kind of like just take a breath and have as long as you need to just kind of chill out. And I don't think anybody really kind of bothers you in here. This is everybody's here for their own sort of I think probably similar things. This is a kind of a place to come when you're off duty and you just want to have a quiet moment and that. And possibly with the sound punctuated with the shouts of "Get off my lawn!"
I imagine that over time I will come used to those.
Yeah, you've heard it a few times. You said, "Don't think I don't see you over there, crewman. Get off of that." I think a large amount of Radol's time is spent just like patrolling for miscreants. But yeah, you're able to spend as much time as you like in here doing whatever you. And is that what you spend most of your evening on? I take it.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Where do we find Rai? I guess.
After the initial meeting, I think Rai would have gone to check on Fel, see how things are progressing with the creature.
Sure. All right, so you head into the turbolift down to the biolabs. I mean, you're head of sciences, so you know this area quite well and that, but Fel has kind of made this area her little sort of, I don't want to say like mad laboratory or anything, but like it's very much like you don't stray into the biosciences area too often, I think. It's not really your field. I mean, you've got a sort of general, your field is sort of quite general, isn't it? And you're in charge and that. Yeah. But Fel has kind of really sort of taken over this area a little bit. So you step into the sort of outer area. There's various sort of lower ranking people working on different things here and there. As you walk in, Ensign Franks looks up. Good evening, sir. How can I help?
Hello, Franks. How are things going down here today?
Oh, it's very busy. It's all very exciting.
New galaxy, new things to explore. Has there been any issues with the live specimen that Lieutenant Fel beamed up?
Not that I've heard of. Lieutenant Commander Fel is doing some experiments now.
Okay, thank you. I'll head in there now and see how she's getting on. I've got a feeling some of the senior staff are nervous about us having a creature such as that on board ship, especially when we don't know much about it to begin with.
Ooh. Anything I should be worried about, sir?
I don't think so. I mean, I looked at the initial report from Murphy's away team, and it did try and take a chunk out of the captain.
Ooh.
Or at least one of them did. I don't know if this is the exact one. But, I just think worth being careful around it.
I'll leave Lieutenant Commander Fel to it, sir. I've got my cell cultures here to focus on.
Yeah, wise man. As always, if you or anyone in the department needs anything, I'm just a comm badge call away.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, carry on, Franks. So I head to the main hall door. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing she's got the door closed. So
it is closed at the moment. Yeah, this is a quarantine lab actually as well. So maybe there is like a little antechamber kind of thing. So you do have to step in and then it's like a little airlock kind of thing. Just an extra security process here that at Murphy's request was. Yeah.
Okay. So I step into the decontamination airlock.
Okay, you step inside and press the button. The outer door closes behind you, and you wait a few seconds as the quarantine system cycles before the inner door opens, and you're allowed access to Biolab 1. So what faces you as you step in? It's kind of a larger chamber. The main part of the room is taken up by a sort of circular pen, fully like built out like titanium, reinforcement. It's not a fence. It's like a chest height wall kind of thing. And you can see Fel is around one side of it looking over. She's not the only one in here. There's another couple of scientists around sort of making observations and stuff. Okay. The pen is probably, I want to say, probably a good 30-40 feet across. They're taking up most of the room here. It's a pretty big enclosure, really. You can see sort of over the top of the pen is the shimmer of a force field.
Okay. I walk over to take a closer look at the enclosure in the middle of the room. Mm-hmm. see what I can see in there.
Yeah. So as you step up, you actually see that the enclosure has been kind of... It's deeper than the floor that you're standing on. So it's going sort of down. This room is designed for this kind of thing. You know, it's not encroaching on anything below. This is what this room is meant for. So it's actually a little bit of a drop down into the enclosure itself. Not a huge one, but it's more just sort of, rather than it being like a pen that's 4 feet high, you look down and it's a pen that's like 7 feet high, if that makes sense. And the entire kind of bottom of it is filled with dust from the planet. They've clearly been busy beaming up a suitable environment, and you look down and you can see this is your first look, I think, at this creature, because you weren't in the team.
Yeah, I've just read a written report about it. I've not seen it.
Yeah, you can see what looks to be moving at a pretty decent speed. Like, not like you're not looking at it going, wow, I can't see what that is, but it's kind of, it's moving in like it's sort of almost like moving in circles around the perimeter. I want to say a little bit above walking pace is a sort of 7 foot long worm-like creature. It's kind of moving its way through the dust in like a sort of a serpentine kind of motion, but it's a sort of burrowing type thing. You can't see all of it at any one time because of the dust. It's moving through it, but the impression you're getting is this quite long, I mean fairly, I don't want to say too thin, it's kind of chunky. You wouldn't be able to get your hands around it, if you know what I mean. It's more than the width of your arm in terms of circumference. It's covered in, you can sort of see now that you've definitely got a better view of it here than the team down on the planet did, at least during the combat. When they were stunned on the ground, they had a better view of it. It's covered in a series of kind of interlocking, what looks like kind of thin, almost like little armor plates. But they're clearly not like metal, but like kind of more just sort of scaly, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That are shimmering a little bit in the glow of the force field as it moves through.
So do they overlap each other, each of these kind of little plates, or are they like up tight close to each other? Some
of them are sort of overlapping a little bit, but it's not completely covered in them. There are areas where the sort of flesh underneath is visible, and that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like they got a kind of armor carapace about them.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Again, I want to say it doesn't look like metal or anything. It does look like it's sort of scales on this thing. It's not, Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's not like something's been applied to it. This is just, it has.
No, it's a natural thing.
A little bit kind of like pangolin scales, I guess.
Okay.
Of a style. But again, it's sort of a kind of like snake skin a little bit as well. That makes sense.
Yeah. I watch it go around in circles, and I go, it's quite fascinating.
Fel hears you, looks up. Hey, you come to look at the zoo.
Certainly have, Lieutenant Commander. I can see you've been doing the place up a bit. I don't like it.
Oh yeah, we cracked out the sandpit. Yeah.
Any issues so far with the containment?
No, it seems pretty happy in there actually. We're trying to figure out what to feed it.
Well, unless you got any spare bits of Captain meat lying around, I think he might be fresh out of luck.
Did you think you can get us some of that? I mean, worst comes to worst, we need to know.
I'm not. Are you suggesting I take some meat off the captain's bones while he's not looking?
Look, I didn't say it in those words. That's what you said. Doesn't need to go any further than this room.
Okay, Phil. I'll bite.
I think the captain will notice it if you bite.
Oh, the captain certainly did, from what I read.
Okay. No, we're trying different things, but it's not actually. We've been throwing in various replicated samples and things, and it's not been going for them. Odd.
Is it possible it knows the difference between synthetic and actual food stuff?
I don't know how it would. It hasn't got any eyes.
It's completely blind?
Well, I don't know about completely blind, but it hasn't got any eyes.
Okay, so no physical sight ability. That's quite weird. Out of curiosity, Phil, is this the one that went after the captain?
Yeah. We haven't got any name for it yet. Got to she kind of indicates towards a board, and there's like it's kind of like a whiteboard. It's like, and there's a list. There's a column that they've written potential names, and there's a few that have been scribbled there that are all a little bit kind of jokey, like Jaws and Nibbles, and the Slithering Menace is also on there as well.
So I go and look at the name suggestions that they've already got on the board. Okay.
These are just nicknames.
There's a lot of Earth-based pop culture names I'm noticing in here.
You sure?
Well, Jaws.
I put Bruce there. Bruce after Bruce was my teacher at the academy.
It's also the nickname for a mechanical shark in an Earth film.
I don't know. I've seen that one.
Quite good. Well, you got enough names on here. I won't add any to the pile. So my main reason for coming up here is just to make sure that everything is logged down, because based on the meeting I've just come from upstairs with the other senior officers, there are some that are nervous about this thing getting out. I'm not suggesting it will happen, Fel, but if anything should happen to the force field or the integrity of the enclosure, what precautions have you got in place?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is run.
Good start. It's a good start.
I don't know. I think we got backup force fields. We're good to. We're fully set here. There's full quarantine. As you say this, there's a sort of, I don't want to say like a spray of sparks, but you hear the sound of something hitting the force field, and you realise the worm has kind of jumped and scraped itself along the force field for a second before falling back down into the enclosure. That's a new one.
So it's not tried to jump before now?
No, not before now. Ensign Cmdr, make a note of that. And Dorian on the far side, who was quite close to where it jumped up, just sort of quite wide-eyed and a little bit surprised, and sort of makes a note on his pad.
Yes. Obviously, keep an eye on its behaviour, but give me a shout if anything develops.
Will do.
If it suddenly decides to sprout legs or anything.
Well, that would, yeah. If it made legs, it would definitely be able to jump a little higher. I'll keep that in mind.
Right, I'll let you carry on then. Do let me know which name you decide on.
Yeah, we'll do. Anytime anyone comes in here, we're getting them to put a name. Have you got any suggestions you want to put in? I will tell you, Ensign Cmdr is currently in the lead with Mr. Nippy.
That is actually quite good. Yeah, I do have a name. May I write it up on the board?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I go over and I start typing in B-A-R-C-L-A-Y.
Barclay. Is that a bank?
I wouldn't know, but I do know it's the name of somebody who would love to have something named after him. And then I just walk out.
Okay. How does Ray know Barclay?
I would say they've probably worked together on a few occasions, but not obviously. Ray wasn't on the Enterprise at any point, but when Barclay's been off the Enterprise, they probably bumped into each other. Maybe during Dominion War they had communications. I don't know. I'll let you figure it out.
Okay. You have a specialization in the Borg. Maybe when Barclay, because Barclay was involved in the Pathfinder project to find Voyager. Maybe you were briefly contacted by him because there were concerns about Borg activity in the area that they were looking
yes,
into.
my fascination with the Borg, yeah.
Yeah, you liaised with him a couple of times over some concerns when they were doing that thing that was like a plot point in Voyager, which was why him and Troy were in Voyager.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And it all happened off screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you found him weird enough to name a sandworm after him, which is, I think, is a little bit like bullying, but all right.
Well, it's, it's not really bullying. I know he's a bit of a nervous person.
Okay. So you write that on the board, and you say making your exit of the room. I think as you're about to step into the airlock again, you once again hear the sound of the force field being hit. and the shout of Fowler, "Write it down!" as the airlock door closes behind you. What are you doing the rest of your evening?
At that point, I will return to my quarters and retire for the evening.
Okay. Jonny, where do we find you following... I can't remember we established if you were in the conference room or whether that was just like a senior officer's debrief.
I mean, I was wondering if it was just that the lower officers were kind of quietly there, attentive, but not contributing so much. But
yeah, but let's say that then.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a full debrief would be a good idea.
Yeah, it makes sense for everybody to be there, really.
Yeah, in case anybody had anything to kick in.
That's it. Not that we did.
No.
So I think maybe on the way out, having been quiet, I'll kind of turn to Bonge and maybe Faria.
Yep.
And even Brecker, because like as much as there's a little bit of animosity, we're all crewmen. So maybe we'll assemble in the corridor outside. Jonny will kind of like try and gather everybody together for a moment.
Sure. Yeah, the gathering of the ensigns.
Am I right in remembering that this was Bonge's first away mission?
Yeah, and I think Faria's as well.
Okay. Well, on that basis then. So Jonny calls out to everybody and Bonge, Faria, Brecker, do you want to come over here for just a second?
Sure.
What do you require, Jonny Conought?
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, we're probably good to go off duty quite soon, all of us. And I was thinking that this being Faria and Bonge, this was your first away mission, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all came away unscathed. The captain was fine in the end, as was Ireela. I think maybe a little celebration, what do you think? And he looks around tentatively, in particular, at Baraka.
Maria's gonna nudge Baraka.
Baraka kind of looks down at you. I think she's like a good foot taller than you.
Maria's just like making eyes at Jonny, going, "Come on, like, be nice."
Very well. One.
That's the spirit. Come on, we're all crewmen, after all. And he smiles. He's smiling at Baraka while he's saying this, like, kind of egging it on a little bit.
You see her roll her eyes and go, "Just lead the way."
Hey, we'll go down to 10 forward.
Bond is like walking alongside Faria, sort of. This thing just jumped at me, and it would have got me if Jonny hadn't. I nearly died.
You're so lucky. We had this hulking thing come out of the sea.
Oh. What happened?
Well, I'm not entirely sure because I got left behind.
Oh.
He left me in charge as well.
Oh wow.
I wasn't even the senior crew member, and he left me in charge.
Hearing this, maybe Jonny and Brecker are walking a couple of paces ahead.
Yeah.
And Jonny suddenly turns around and goes, "What was that? They put you in charge?"
Well, Commander Rai went off to track it, and he turned around and was like, "Freya, you've got things handled here, haven't you?" And all I could do was nod.
You performed adequately, Ensign, but Commander Rai did not respect the established chain of command. A potentially dangerous choice.
Oh, I completely agree. I was not ready for that position.
You are most fortunate that neither Lieutenant Carson nor Dr. Salat saw fit to challenge you to ritual combat for command of the mission.
Freya's just like looking at her like wide-eyed. They wouldn't really do that, would they? Would they?
Were this a Klingon expedition, they would be well within their rights to.
Well, I think we can all count our blessings. This isn't a Klingon expedition.
Freya's just a little bit paler than she was a moment ago. Yeah, very glad. Very glad. I wouldn't do well. As honourable. She's looking at Baraka and just be like, as honourable as that is. I don't think. I'm gonna have to pass on the Klingon.
I think at this point you're all in like the turbo lift, and it opens on deck 10, and you head to 10 forward for drinks and merriment.
I like the idea that we had like a quiet moment in the turbo lift, just of awkwardness. Nobody said anything while the turbo lift ran.
Yeah, like the thoughts I think were running through Freya's head there of exactly what the implication was there. Where Brecca's just sort of stood there like she said it and she's just letting the fallout happen.
So I think as we step out, Jonny will be like, "So 10 forward then, onwards," and then try and break the moment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, could use a drink.
I still need to steady my nerves. I'm shaking. A little bit nervy still, even though this is a couple of hours after the thing. He's not used to away missions. He's also not used to giant worm things like jumping at him and nearly biting him. Highly strung, I think. And it's going to take him a little while to kind of amp down from that.
We need to get him some cola.
Yeah, just quick, get him some of that swamp water to steady his nerves.
So yeah, Jonny will lead them all into 10 forward, and with the intent to sort of sit and tell the story back to each other, like, so what happened on your side, give us all the details, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And pass the evening that way.
Okay.
Moment of trying to hold a little bit of diplomacy out to Baraka, at least. That was the main objective.
Yeah, I think, and then she's come along for the drink, so, that's a good first step, maybe.
Bridging the gap.
Rome wasn't built in a day and all that. Okay, so maybe, so that's it. That's your kind of evening. I think maybe Baraka, she said to stay for 1. Maybe she stays for 2 and then leaves. Not with any big kind of like, oh, well, I'm glad we've come to an understanding and we can be friends going forward. Maybe she just sort of like finishes her drink and says, I shall see you all tomorrow.
Been a pleasure, Baraka.
Yeah, she walks away, and the 3 of you are at the table. And I guess a little bit more sort of, the evening's still young, I guess. Maybe you're joined by other, off-duty people as I don't know. How long are you spending in 10 forward? You tell me.
I think being a regular there's probably a bunch of people Jonny talks to, and it's an opportunity to tell stories, and he would probably spend a lot of time hyping up the others because it's their first mission, in particular Bria for being given command inexplicably.
I think as well, there's people, there's definitely people who come to talk to you, and ask you how it went and that, because it's the first away mission of the expedition. So you guys aren't like celebrities, but it's very much like, oh, you guys got to go on that. What happened? It's just people like you maybe know incidentally or whatever, or there are people that you know a bit better, but you're not just sat there left alone. People are coming up and going, hey, so what went on? And stuff, It's a relaxed atmosphere in here, and I think you get to tell the tale a couple of times. Any embellishments coming in the more times you tell it and the more alcohol you have, or is this...
No, I think Jonny's pretty, again, he's been handing off. I don't know about the other two, but he's been pretty straightforward about oh yeah, we took some scans, so at least I saw some action, I saw some stuff happen, but it was Bonge that got attacked, and
it was awful.
The one that got so
I nearly died. This huge thing, it came right at me, nearly killed me. I would have been the first Ferengi to die in this star cluster if it wasn't for Jonny here. And now they're keeping one of them down on the science decks.
Well, hopefully we're going to learn a thing or two about that. It certainly seemed, I don't know if we should really talk too much about the specifics beyond the action, but there was some interesting stuff down there. There's going to be a lot to find out.
Yeah, on the hush-hush, yeah. I think after a couple of drinks, Bonge is looking... He's a little tipsy, and he also is looking quite tired, and so you're kind of still telling the story, and you turn and Bond just kind of put his head down on the table a little bit.
Fear's just gonna pat his head. I think someone needs to go to bed.
If the adrenaline has finally worn off.
Yeah, I think he's had an exciting day, so
it's been a big day.
Yeah. You did well.
I think it's time to get you back to bed, Bonge. Let's get you up.
I can walk, I'm just tired.
Oh, fair.
It's not like a small child who's fallen asleep in a car seat that you have to carry inside or something. But he's just
I
kind
don't
of
know
like,
who was letting the synthahol get to him.
yeah, no, he's definitely like feeling a bit tipsy, and like it's definitely like, you know, you get that sort of like, it's getting towards the end of the night, kind of like head starting to nod, kind of, you know, wanting to, like his bed is calling him.
Yeah.
Let's say, yeah.
We'll call it a day there then.
Yeah, so
head off back
the pair of you, I guess, help bond back to bed, and yeah, he's quickly tucked up and asleep. I don't know.
We sing him a nice nursery rhyme.
Read him a story, and yeah, a nice decompression evening, I think, is had by most people. Then it's a long way of saying. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, December the 19th for the next chapter of Frontier. We hope you'll all join us for that. In the meantime, you can head to pretendingwithdice.com for links to all of our online presences, including our Discord server, Ko-Fi page, merch store, and much, much more. So yeah, for now, that's our show. We hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.